They say you never really know your neighbors. You wave to them while getting the mail, you comment on the weather, you watch their kids grow up. But you never know what they are doing behind closed blinds when they think no one is watching. For 2 years, I thought Michael Vance was just the quiet man who lived 3 doors down. He drove a red truck, he kept his lawn manicured, he waved at me every Tuesday when I rolled my trash bins to the curb. I thought he was a nice young man. I didn't know that he was tracking my movements. I didn't know he had memorized my work schedule down to the minute. And I certainly didn't know that he was planning to break into my house to handle me. The only reason I'm alive to tell you this story is because of a stranger, a man named Frank, who drove a silver Toyota and barely spoke a word, until the night he saved my life. It was a Thursday in December. It was freezing rain in Portland. Frank picked me up from my night shift at the hospital, just like he always did. But instead of driving me home, he turned left. He drove into an empty, dark parking lot. He put the car in park, and he locked the doors. I thought I was about to be robbed. I thought this was the end. But then Frank pulled out his phone and played me a recording. It was the voice of my neighbor, Michael, and what he was saying on that tape made my blood turn to ice. This is the story of how a widow and a driver uncovered a $1 million crime ring operating in the basement of a hospital, and how we stopped a monster before he could silence me forever. Before I play you the recording that changed everything, I need to connect with you. Pause the video right now. Go to the comments and tell me, where are you watching this from? And tell me, has a stranger ever done something to help you that you never forgot? I'm reading every single comment. Now, let's get in the car. The life insurance check barely covered the funeral. After 42 years of marriage, you expect to be left with memories, not debt. But my Henry, bless his heart, he was a dreamer, not a planner. When he passed away from a sudden stroke, I found myself alone in our small house on Cedar Street, staring at a pile of bills that seemed to multiply overnight. I was 63 years old. I was a retired auditor. I hadn't worked a real job in 20 years. But survival doesn't care about your age. Survival demands action. So I dusted off my resume. I didn't put grandmother on it. I put detail-oriented financial specialist. That's how I ended up in the basement of Riverside Medical Center, working the night shift in the billing department. It wasn't glamorous. It was a windless room filled with flickering fluorescent lights and stacks of patient files. But it kept the lights on, and more importantly, it kept my mind off the empty chair at the dinner table. My shift was Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 4 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. The work was tedious, medical codes, insurance denials, but I was good at it. My auditor brain liked finding patterns. I liked making the numbers balance. The only problem was getting home. I don't drive at night anymore. My eyes aren't what they used to be. For the first few months, I took the number 12 bus. It stopped right outside the hospital and dropped me 2 blocks from my house. But in September, the city cut the budget. The last bus started leaving at 11 p.m. I couldn't leave work early. I needed every hour of pay. So my daughter, who lives 3 states away in Colorado, installed a rideshare app on my phone. "It's safe, Mom," she told me. "You just push the button and a car comes. It tracks everything." I was terrified the first time. Getting into a stranger's car at midnight, it went against everything I was raised to believe. That's how I met Frank. It was a rainy Tuesday. I tapped the button. The app said, "Frank, silver Toyota Camry, 4.9 stars. When he pulled up, I hesitated. He was a big man, broad shoulders. He wore a baseball cap pulled low and a thick jacket. He looked rough. He looked like someone who had seen trouble. But it was cold and my feet hurt, so I opened the back door. "Mrs. Eleanor?" he asked. His voice was deep, gravelly. "Yes," I said, clutching my purse tight. "Cedar Street?" "Yes." He didn't try to make small talk. He didn't ask me prying questions. He just drove. He drove carefully. He used his turn signals. He checked his mirrors constantly, not nervously, but alertly, like a soldier on patrol. When we got to my house, he didn't just drop me at the curb and speed off. He waited. He kept his headlights on my front door until I was safely inside and had turned the lock. I watched his taillights fade away. He's a good one, I thought. For the next month, it was random. I got different drivers. Some were young kids who blasted music. Some were chatty women who asked too many questions about why an old lady was working so late. But then the pattern started. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, when I requested a ride at 11:35 p.m., Frank accepted. At first, I thought it was luck, but by November, I realized it was intentional. He was parking near the hospital, waiting for my request to come through. We fell into a routine, a quiet companionship in the dark. "Long night?" he asked one Thursday. "Endless," I sighed. "The insurance companies are fighting every claim this week. How about you, Frank?" "Quiet," he said. "I like quiet." Slowly, the walls came down. I learned that Frank was a retired security guard from the shipyards. He had lost his pension when the union folded. He drove to pay for his wife's medical bills. She was in a care facility with dementia. "She doesn't remember me most days," Frank told me, his eyes on the road. "But I remember her. I remember enough for both of us." My heart broke for him. We were two lonely people drifting through the night, trying to keep our heads above water. I started bringing him coffee. Just a cheap cup from the hospital vending machine, but when I handed it to him through the window, his face softened. "You didn't have to do that, Eleanor," he said. "It's cold out, Frank, and you keep the heater on for me. It's a fair trade." By December, Frank wasn't just my driver. He was my friend. He was the only person I spoke to some days. But while Frank and I were building trust, someone else was watching. It started with small things. One morning, I found my trash cans moved. I always placed them on the left side of the driveway. They were on the right. Another day, I came home and found my back gate unlatched. I blamed the wind. But then there was the red truck, Michael Vance's truck. He lived 3 houses down, a quiet man, maybe 40. He worked odd hours. I sometimes saw him in the yard raking leaves. He would wave, I would wave back. But lately the wave had changed. He didn't just wave, he stared. He would stop raking and watch me walk from the mailbox to the door. He would watch me get into Frank's car at night. I told myself I was being a paranoid old woman. I thought, he's just a neighbor, he's probably just lonely too. I was wrong. He wasn't lonely. He was hungry, and he had realized something about me, something even I hadn't fully pieced together yet. I worked in the billing department. I had access to the files, and Michael Vance, he had a secret buried in those files.
Thursday, December 14th. I remember the date because it was the night the audit began at work. My supervisor, a frazzled woman named Brenda, had called a meeting at 4 p.m. "We have a problem," Brenda said, closing the door. "We are missing files, physical patient records, and the digital logs show claims being paid out to vendors that don't exist." "How much?" I asked. $200,000 in the last 6 months, Brenda whispered. "Someone is creating fake patients, billing Medicare for surgeries that never happen, and collecting the checks." My auditor brain lit up. This wasn't a mistake. This was embezzlement. "Who has access to the physical archives?" I asked. "Only billing staff," Brenda said, "and maintenance. The janitorial crew cleans the archive room at night." I spent my entire shift that night digging. I pulled the logs, I looked for patterns. I found something strange. The fake claims were all entered between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., when the billing department was empty. Who was in the building at 2 a.m.? I was so absorbed in the mystery that I almost forgot to call my ride. At 11:40 p.m., I ran out to the curb. It was sleeting. The wind bit my face. Frank's Toyota pulled up. I jumped in. "Sorry I'm late, Frank. Big drama at work tonight." Usually, Frank would nod or say, "No problem." Tonight, he didn't speak. He pulled away from the curb aggressively. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "Frank?" I asked. "Is everything okay?" He didn't answer. He looked in the rearview mirror. His eyes weren't kind tonight. They were intense, scared. He drove past the turn for Cedar Street. "Frank, you missed the turn," I said, leaning forward. "Cedar is back there." "I know," he said. His voice was tight. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe." My heart started to hammer. Somewhere safe? Was Frank dangerous? Had I misjudged him this whole time? Was this a kidnapping? "Let me out," I said, reaching for the door handle. "Frank, stop the car." "Don't open that door," he commanded. "Not until I say so." He drove 2 miles out of the way. He pulled into the parking lot of an abandoned grocery store. It was dark, desolate. The only light came from a flickering street lamp. He put the car in park. Click. He locked the doors from the master switch. I fumbled for my phone. I was going to call 911. Frank turned around in his seat. He held up his hands. "Eleanor, please stop. I'm not going to hurt you." "Unlock the door," I screamed. "I can't take you home," Frank said. "Not tonight, because he is there." I froze. He? Who? "Your neighbor," Frank said. "The guy in the red truck. Thomas, or Michael, whatever his name is." "Michael Vance?" I asked. "What about him?" Frank pulled out his phone. His hand was shaking. "I need you to listen to something." Frank picked up a passenger last night, 1 a.m., from a bar downtown. He was drunk. He didn't recognize me. "Who was it?" "It was your neighbor," Frank said. "He requested a ride to Cedar Street. He sat right where you were sitting." Frank tapped the screen. "I have a Dashcam," Frank explained. "It records inside the cabin. He was on the phone with someone. He was angry." He pressed play. The audio filled the quiet car. It was grainy, but the voice was unmistakable. It was Michael Vance. Michael's voice. "She knows. I'm telling you, she knows. She's asking questions at the hospital." A pause. He was listening to someone on the other end. Michael's voice. "The old lady, Eleanor. She works in billing. I saw her pulling the archive logs tonight when I was mopping the hall." My blood ran cold. Mopping the hall? Michael Vance worked at the hospital. I had never seen him there. Michael's voice. "She's going to figure out the phantom vendor scheme. She's an auditor, for God's sake. We have to shut her up." Another pause. Michael's voice. "Tonight? No, she's not home yet. Thursday. Thursday night she works late. I'll wait in her bushes. When she gets out of the Uber, I'll handle it. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong." The recording ended. Silence. The only sound was the sleet hitting the roof of the car. "He's going to kill me," I whispered. "He thinks you know about the fraud," Frank said. "He thinks you're on to him." I just found out tonight," I stammered. "I didn't know it was him. I thought he was just a neighbor." "He works maintenance," Frank said. "Night shift. That's how he gets into the files." Frank looked at me. His eyes were fierce. "I drove past your house before I came to get you," Frank said. "His red truck is parked in your driveway. The lights are off. He's waiting, Eleanor. He's waiting for me to drop you off so he can grab you." I started to cry. I couldn't help it. The terror washed over me. "What do we do?" I asked. "I can't go home." "No," Frank said. "We are going to the police precinct and we are giving this recording." He put the car in drive. "But, Eleanor, you need to think. Is there anything in your house, any files you brought home, anything he might be looking for?" I thought about it. "My laptop," I said. "I have a remote login. If he gets my laptop, he can delete the audit logs. He can erase the evidence." "Does he know where you keep it?" "It's on the kitchen table, right in front of the window." Frank gripped the wheel. "Okay. Change of plan. We aren't going to the police yet. If we go to the police, they'll take hours to get a warrant. By then, he might break in and destroy the computer." "So what do we do?" Frank looked at me in the rearview mirror. "I have a tire iron in the trunk, and I know how to move quietly. We are going to go get your laptop, and then we are going to catch this son of a bitch in the act."
We drove back towards Cedar Street with the headlights off. Frank parked 3 blocks away, behind a line of oak trees. "Stay here," Frank said, reaching under his seat. He pulled out a heavy metal flashlight. "I'm going to scout the perimeter." "I'm coming with you," I said. "Eleanor, it's dangerous." "It's my house, Frank, and that laptop has 40 years of my life on it. I'm not letting a crook destroy it." He looked at me. He saw I wasn't going to budge. "Okay," he said, "but stay behind me and be quiet." We walked through the freezing rain. The neighborhood was asleep. No lights in the windows, just the sound of the wind in the trees. We reached my neighbor's hedge. I crouched down. There it was, the red truck. It was parked in my driveway, just like Frank said, but the engine was off. The cabin was empty. "He's not in the truck," I whispered. Frank pointed to the side of the house. "Look." A shadow was moving near the kitchen window. It was Michael Vance. He was wearing black, trying to pry the screen off my window with a screwdriver. He was trying to break in. My heart hammered against my ribs. If I had come home alone, if Frank had just dropped me off, I would have walked right into him. "He's going for the kitchen," I whispered. "That's where the laptop is." "We need to call 911, Frank said, pulling out his phone. "Now." "Wait," I stopped him. "If we call the police now, the sirens will scare him off. He'll run. He'll destroy the evidence remotely. He's an IT guy, Frank. He can wipe that drive from his phone if he gets spooked. So what do you want to do?" "I want to catch him," I said. "I want to catch him holding the stolen files." I looked at Frank. "The back door," I said. "It has a keypad lock. I can get us inside the laundry room without him seeing. We can wait for him." "You want to trap a burglar inside your own house?" Frank looked at me like I was crazy. "I spent 20 years auditing Fortune 500 companies. I know how to set a trap. Are you with me?" Frank took a deep breath. He gripped the flashlight tighter. "Lead the way, ma'am." We crept around the back. The rain masked our footsteps. I punched in the code, 1984. Beep, click. We slipped inside the laundry room. It smelled of detergent and fear. We listened. Scrape, scrape, crack. The kitchen window gave way. I heard the sound of boots hitting the linoleum floor. He was in. "He's in," Frank mouthed. We crept into the hallway. It was pitch black. I could see the beam of Michael's flashlight dancing around the kitchen. He was tearing the room apart. He wasn't looking for jewelry. He wasn't looking for cash. He went straight to the table. "Gotcha," I heard him mutter. He opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue, illuminating his face. He looked manic, sweaty. He pulled a USB drive from his pocket. He was stealing the audit logs. "Now," whispered to Frank. Frank stepped out of the shadows. He didn't yell, he didn't scream, he just clicked his flashlight on. A beam of blinding white light hit Michael square in the face. "Freeze," Frank boomed. His voice wasn't the quiet driver's voice anymore. It was the voice of a man who used to guard shipyards. Michael shrieked. He dropped the laptop. It clattered onto the table. He spun around, blinding himself in the light. He reached for his belt. He had a knife. "He's got a knife," I shouted. Michael lunged. He didn't run away. He ran at us. He was desperate. He knew his life was over if he got caught. Frank didn't flinch. He stepped forward, blocking me with his body. Michael swung the knife. Frank caught his wrist. I heard a sickening crack. Michael shrieked and dropped the knife. Frank spun him around and slammed him face first into the refrigerator. "Stay down," Frank roared. I ran to the light switch and flipped it on. The kitchen was a mess. Mud on the floor, my laptop open, and my neighbor, the man who waved at me on Tuesdays, pinned against my refrigerator by my Uber driver. Michael looked at me. His nose was bleeding. "Eleanor," he gasped. "Eleanor, tell him to let me go. It's a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I walked over to the table. I picked up the USB drive he had dropped. "I think this is evidence, Michael, and I think you're going away for a very long time." I picked up my phone. I dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? "I have an intruder detained, and I have proof of a $1 million fraud ring. Send the detectives." The police arrived in 4 minutes. They handcuffed Michael, they bagged the knife, they bagged the USB drive. Detective Miller, the same detective who handled the neighborhood watch, walked in.
He looked at Michael, then at Frank, then at me. "Mrs. Eleanor," he said, "you have had a busy night." "He was stealing hospital records," I said. "He's the one creating the fake vendors. He's been embezzling from Riverside for 2 years." Michael spat at me. "You don't know anything, old woman. You're just a glorified secretary." "I'm a forensic auditor," I corrected him, "and I noticed that the fake invoices were all dated on the nights you were working the night shift." Detective Miller raised an eyebrow. "Is that true?" "Check his pockets," I said. "He has a master key to the billing archives. I saw it on his belt when he came in." The officer checked. He pulled out a key card. "Admin access." Michael slumped. He knew it was over. They dragged him out. I sat down at my kitchen table. My legs were shaking now. The adrenaline was fading. Frank was standing by the sink, washing a cut on his hand. "You okay?" I asked. "I'm fine," he said. "Just a scratch." "You saved my life, Frank." "I just drove the car," he said. "No," I stood up. "You came back. You didn't have to. You could have driven away. You could have called the cops and waited in the car. You came inside." Frank looked down. "My wife, before she got sick, someone broke into our house. I wasn't there, I was working. I always told myself if I had another chance to stop a bad guy, I wouldn't wait outside." I hugged him. It was awkward, he was a big guy and I'm barely 5'4", but I hugged him tight. "Thank you," I whispered. The next morning, the hospital called. The CEO wanted to see me. I walked into the office at 9 a.m. I hadn't slept. "Eleanor," the CEO said, "the police told us everything. They found the files in Michael's truck. He had thousands of stolen patient identities. He was selling them on the dark web." "I figured as much," I said. "We owe you a debt of gratitude," the CEO said. "You saved this hospital millions in lawsuits, and you stopped a dangerous criminal." He slid a check across the desk. "This is a bonus, a reward, $50,000. I looked at the check. It was more money than I had seen in years. It would pay off my house. It would fix my roof. But then I thought of Frank. I thought of his wife in the care facility. I thought of his silver Toyota with the check engine light on. "I'll take it," I said, "but I have one condition." "Anything." "You have a contract with a private security firm for the parking lot, don't you?" "Yes." "Fire them," I said. "They let a predator stalk your employees for months. I have a recommendation for a new head of security, a man named Frank." Michael Vance was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Healthcare fraud, identity theft, burglary, and assault with a deadly weapon. It turned out he wasn't just working alone. He was part of a ring. Because of the evidence on my laptop, the FBI took down 6 other people in the state. I retired from the billing department a month later. I didn't need the money anymore. But I still go to the hospital every Tuesday. I pull up to the front entrance in my new car. I park in the reserved spot. I walk into the lobby. Frank is there. He's wearing a suit now. He has a badge that says Head of Security. He looks 10 years younger. The weight is off his shoulders. "Morning, Eleanor," he smiles. "Morning, Frank. How is she?" "She had a good day yesterday," Frank beams. "She remembered my name. With the new salary, I moved her to a better facility. Private room, garden view. She likes the birds." "I'm glad, Frank." We get lunch in the cafeteria. We talk about the old days. We talk about the night in the grocery store parking lot. We aren't just a driver and a passenger anymore. We are family. Sometimes when I'm gardening in my yard, I look at the house 3 doors down, Michael's house. It was sold to a nice young couple with a baby. They wave at me, I wave back. I'm not afraid anymore, because I know that monsters are real, but I also know that heroes are real. They don't always wear capes. Sometimes they drive a silver Toyota Camry, and sometimes they are a 63-year-old grandmother with a laptop and a grudge. To everyone watching this, pay attention to the people around you, the quiet ones, the ones who serve you coffee, the ones who drive your cars, the ones who clean your offices. You never know which one of them might save your life one day. And to the Michaels of the world, be careful. You might think we are just old women. You might think we are invisible, but we are watching, and we keep very good records. This is Eleanor's story. It teaches us that kindness is an investment that always pays off. If I hadn't brought Frank that coffee, he might not have watched my back. If this story touched you, please hit the like button and subscribe to Granny Archive Stories. And I have a question for you. Have you ever had a bad feeling about a neighbor? Did you trust your gut? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Stay safe, stay alert, and be kind to your driver.